Wow. Weird noises.
We're live.
Cheers.
Live as fuck.
Cheers.
Good morning.
Boom.
We did it.
Carly.
Thank you.
are.
I'm pretty psyched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you?
Super psyched to have
Yeah.
you.
Psyched.
Yeah. If you guys didn't have your coffee this morning, Carly's got you. A little kick in the pants.
Mm-hmm.
Carly's gotcha.
Got some coffee.
Are we waiting for the
don't know how to
humans?
sit right now.
Yeah, I don't know how this works. Are the humans coming or
I
not?
think they're coming. Yeah, we got. Oh yeah, we got lots of humans on Kayla's.
Cool. I can't. Mine's dark for some reason.
What's
Oh,
There's just some
you may or may not be
It's
watching.
alright. It's
Well,
alright. There's
TBD.
just some
I'm trying to
technical.
like move
We'll
forward.
see what happens.
What's
Do we
happening?
do we scooch? I'm
Yeah,
scooching.
what are we doing?
I think we're good.
Yeah,
Alright.
We're just moving.
We're good.
Well, morning.
All right. Cool.
Let's
What's
start.
up?
What's up?
Okay.
Kick it off.
I can't get comfortable.
Go ahead, kick it off. Miguel.
Kick it off. Okay. So, are we just gonna introduce ourselves? What are we doing?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Do I introduce
Okay.
myself?
No, we're
So,
ready.
oh,
We
oh,
got you.
okay.
We got you.
Oh,
We got
great.
Some
you.
people don't know you yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're still a
We
surprise.
got you.
Jeez.
Yeah,
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Everyone should know. Just kidding. I'm sweating. Okay.
Go ahead.
Gotta make you nervous.
Yeah, a little bit.
All the sugar is the heat.
That's how she goes. Well, okay, no, seriously. So, welcome to Wild Hearts. I am Michaela. Michaela Jean Photography is my business. So for those of you who don't know me, who are maybe watching from Carly's side of things, I am a wedding, couples, adventurous photographer. The other side of my business is kind of women's empowerment. The foundation of my business is if you saw yourself the way the rest of the world saw you, you'd be astounded by your own beauty. That's a little bit about me.
Hi everyone, my name's Sean Adam. I'm with Up and Adam Inspirational Speaking and Life Coaching. For those of you that don't know me, a lot of my work is centered around kind of my story and working through my own pain with a lot of mental illness and kind of rising through that to realize that that was never who I was. It was just a challenge I had to face, and it's kind of what turned me into who I was and put me on the path I'm on. So my work is trying to inspire others, especially in the realm of men, to kind of honor wholeness, which is, that divine masculine, that divine feminine energy within both of us to present as a conscious man. So that's what I do. Now, our special guest over here to the right.
Woo! Woo!
Forgot you were here.
Here we go. This is
It's
who
early,
Carly
man.
is. Carly is a freelance copywriter and creative living in the Seacoast area in New Hampshire. She's written for some pretty rad national and global brands, and when she's not writing commercials and billboards, she's most likely still writing. You can check out her professional work on our website, carleybarton.com, or you can read some of her more personal anecdotes on the renegaderulebook.com, which, don't you worry, that sounds pretty badass. We're going to get into that a little bit.
Oh, it is. So before we kind of let you take the floor, first I think we want to let everyone know who maybe is watching from your end again what Wild Hearts is, why we do it, and then maybe let everyone know kind of how we both met you.
Yes. I have to think how.
Foundation for
okay.
a great,
I got it.
great story.
Yeah. So me and Michaela met roughly 4 months.
It was summer, like July.
Yeah, something like that. And we both were crazy, cool kids that wanted to do a podcast. So here we are. But the foundation of this was based upon people in at least my life and her life that inspired us, that made those what seemed to be out of reach dreams more tangible. For me, it was my friend AJ Gavoni, if you're watching. Hi, AJ.
Hey, Jay.
And when I was, 24, 25, AJ was traveling all across the world. And, Instagram was out, so we're seeing all these, beautiful pictures and awesome things going on. And for me, I hadn't even been on a plane until I was 23, so that stuff seems so, yeah.
That's bananas.
Yeah, we drove to Florida. For vacation. That's our big one when I was in
Mom
second
and
grade.
Dad, if you are watching, I love you guys, but I would never do that drive with y'all.
Yeah, it was pretty
Absolutely not.
pretty torturous. I feel
Absolutely
bad
not.
for my parents. But so for me, it was just, there were so many barriers around travel, and knowing AJ, a good friend of mine, I'm like, well, damn, if she can do it, why can't I? And it kind of gave some tangibility to that experience, and then I just started to break down the walls, and eventually last year I went to Portugal, my first overseas travel. So that was kind of where this stemmed from. I know you had some inspiration. I'll let you talk about kind of who inspired you.
Yeah, for me, the most inspirational person in my life has been my younger brother. He plays professional basketball over in Canada right now, and it's just been really incredible watching him chase his dreams since he was really little. So he kind of was the inspiration for me, which led me to starting to write a book last year, which is still a work in progress. But with that book, the foundation was inspiration for the ordinary, by the ordinary. And I essentially was interviewing people in our community who were sustaining their lives, doing what they love, and kind of, I know for both of us, this podcast is kind of telling the messy, in between stuff, not just the people who have already, quote unquote, gotten there. Made it, yeah, exactly. So that's kind of why, we're here. We're all making it. We're all work in progress. So so today we get to talk to the lovely Carley Barton. Yeah. So
how did you guys meet?
Yeah.
I don't think I even know this story.
I don't even think I know the story. I think
the story.
I think
Nobody ever remembers meeting me.
Well, no. So I remember coming into contact with you several times and
Just
being like, wow, that person's really impressive. But I'm not sure which was the first. Did we meet? I feel like someone at some point. I don't know if it was maybe Rhea or Noelle, but someone was like, you need to meet Michaela. She's going to be at Creative Mornings.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So
I had a
little
pre-knowledge of who you were.
That changes things.
But where did you?
So okay, this is how I met Carley.
I wasn't there.
She wasn't there. So hold on. So I was at Creative Mornings.
Mm-hmm.
My first or second ever Creative Mornings. Must have been my second one because I think I was taking pictures of Rhea the first time I went. And I was sitting in the audience and I was watching you speak because you were speaking.
Yes.
It was your Creative Mornings.
Yes, I was. I remember that. I was there for that.
Yeah, you were there for that. You were present. And I was watching you speak, and the whole presentation, I was like, this girl reminds me so much of my friend Ashley Connor. Who lives in Colorado.
Ashley Connor, if you're watching, shout out Ashley Connor.
Yeah, girl, miss ya. So I was like, this girl reminds me so much of Ashley. I just kept thinking that, and then after I was like, well, that girl's really cool, so we should probably be friends. So I introduced myself. I think I introduced myself to you after. I was
you did.
Hey,
it was in the line where people line up to talk to them.
Because Carly's famous. I had to wait in line to meet Carley Barton. So y'all know the truth. Then she gave me her autograph and it was great. But we ended up just chatting and exchanging numbers or Instagram or something. And then later that day, I had posted a video of your talk, I think on Instagram, and Ashley sent me a message. And she was like, you just saw one of my really good friends do a talk. And I was like, shut the fuck up. I just swore.
STFU.
Live.
It's alright. I told you guys in my bio. I have a podcast.
I just had to
we were ready for the podcast.
Get the ball rolling.
We're just preparing you guys for
They asked me to fill out a bio, and they said, what are 3 things you must know about me? And I said, I think my number 2 was I'm just have a potty mouth. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
viewers, parents,
mom.
Future employers, I'm sorry.
I think that's part of that, kick you in the well, no, I think that's part of the whole Carley Barton persona, though. I think that's my favorite part of her writing. It's just it's this heated thing that's coming in, and then you're just fuck, and you're like, oh, all right, really getting that passion in there. I'm like, all right, I'm keeps me on the edge of my seat.
It is my favorite word. It's a multifaceted word.
It is.
Yeah, Carly realized the other day, she's like, you stopped using the word dang in your posts and you started using shit, and she's like, I'm so proud of you.
So psyched.
Anyway, so now how we met. This is actually kind of comical in my eyes. So apparently we met at a yoga class with AJ.
I want to say it was actually AJ's, one of AJ's Bend and Brews at Liar's Bench.
Yeah. And what's comical about me, pretty standard in our community. Met someone at yoga. But for the 6 weeks preceding, I just kept messaging Carley and saying, "Are you a model?" And
I'm not, by the way.
Every single time she said, "No,
no."
And then I'd see a different Instagram picture. I'm like, no, she's hiding something. Kept asking, and she's just eventually, I think after 3 months, she's just like, "Sean, the answer's still no." And I was
still not that. I'm
all right, fine. All right, fine. I'll stop asking you. So I think that's really comical about how we met.
Sean's very persistent. If you don't know Sean, he's tenacious. He's a tenacious little bugger.
Yes. That's life has brought me to that. But enough about the banter. Let's get started.
Let's get into it. Woo!
Okay. So what do we want to ask her first?
Ask him.
So let's just
get out. Let's just tell us a little bit about your story and I mean, we know everyone knows you're a writer now.
Yep, it's true.
It's out there.
So I actually went to school to be a high school English teacher, which a lot of people don't know.
I didn't know that.
Right? See. And I was one for a little while. I was teaching in Australia, and where I was living at the time. And I came home after a little under a year and tried to get back into teaching, and the job market had just crashed here. It was lovely. What a time to be alive. Fresh out of college with a degree and unable to get a job. And the problem, too, is that because the job market, especially in education, was so poor at the time, literally and figuratively poor, unless you had your master's degree, like, you weren't getting hired. So I was substitute teaching for a little while, feeling like really unfulfilled, like 22 years old. And I was like, what the hell else can I do? Like, there has to be more to this. Even if I were to get a job, I'd be making like really terrible money. And I feel like people always kind of feel ashamed when they're like, oh, like I wasn't making enough money. Like, money shouldn't be a driving force. But like, for me, it kind of is. Like, if I'm being real, there's a life that I want to live, and that salary wouldn't have supported the lifestyle I wanted to live. So I was like, okay, well, what other skills do I have that are transferable? And I started a blog, which at the time was called Finding Gravity. And it was about kind of like life after college, because I figured kind of this is the basis of all of my writing. But like, if I'm feeling this, there's for sure other people my age that are feeling this also. So I started a blog called Finding Gravity, and it was all about finding your way when it feels like you're kind of just like floating through space. And long story short, it ended up getting featured on a couple different websites. It got picked up by like WordPress's homepage. Got like a weird amount of traffic in a very short amount of time, and it kind of blew up. And then I had this big readership, and I had to take it a little bit more seriously, because now it wasn't just like my mom and like my roommate and like my boyfriend at the time reading. It was like people all over the world. So it was a cool feeling, but that was kind of when I realized, like, oh, I have something here. Like, people connect with what I have to say. So a friend of mine at the time was interviewing for a job position in New York, Kate, if you're watching, and she had accepted a job elsewhere by the time they made her an offer. So she gave them like my contact info and passed their info along to me. It was a big, now global ad agency in New York called VaynerMedia. And I had really no idea she did that. She like sent me a text one day and was like, hey, just a heads up, I gave them your name. And I was like, well, I don't have any experience in this, but okay. And I ended up getting a call and going and taking an interview, and just like completely bullshitted my way through this interview. I did not know. They were like, you know how to do analytics? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely not. No idea. It was I don't know how. It must have been like my personality or charm or something. I don't know. Qualification wise, I was so underqualified. And I ended up getting hired and packing up my things and moving to New York pretty much in like a week. And then the rest is history. Here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. I think it's like the Richard Branson quote. Like, he says, if someone gives you a great opportunity, just take it and figure it out later. Right?
Well, that's kind of always been my, like, I'll just figure it out. Like, I didn't even think twice about it. It was kind of like, this is my chance. Like, this is my foot in the door. And I'll never forget getting the call from Vayner. I remember pulling over on the side of the road to take the call, and they were like, we want you for the job, but the catch is that we need you here in 10 days. And I had just paid my July rent. My boyfriend and I were living together at the time. He couldn't like leave his job in Boston. He was working in Boston, commuting to Boston every day. So I, without even thinking about it, was just like, yes, I'll take it. And yeah, figured it all out. Like, packed up 2 suitcases, got a sublet for like a weekend, moved to New York by myself, knew nobody, kind of couch hopped and couch surfed for a little bit, and took like a month of like that to find a home.
Yeah.
Moved on a Sunday, started work Monday morning at 8 a.m. Like, had no time to adjust. And like the first like 6 months, I think I was calling my mom crying every night. Just like, I want to come home. I want to come home. I hate it here. Yeah. And now, I mean, you know me. Like, now I love New York. I go back to New York every chance I get. I'm probably going to be going back in another week, and I was just there. And but at the time, knowing nobody, having no support system, being in a new job where I didn't know what I was doing, in a new city with new people, it was a lot. It was like system overload.
So walk us. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So walk us through like that conversation, that moment. Like a lot of people wouldn't do that. Most people wouldn't take that chance because that's terrifying. And we actually talked. Carley was at my workshop yesterday, and we actually talked about comfort zones.
If you are looking in the Seacoast area and looking for a lady, I think it's a ladies only. Currently ladies only, but Michaela's vulnerability workshop, do that shit.
Thank you for being there. No, but we talked about comfort zones yesterday, and you talked about this in your Creative Mornings talk because we revisited that yesterday. Like, talk us a little bit like what did that feel like going to New York? Like, how far out of your comfort zone was that?
So far out of
totally
my comfort zone.
unplanned, and like how did you do it?
I mean, well, so I luckily like a lot in my early 20s I traveled. So the idea of like going somewhere wasn't scary to me. Sydney's a big city. I spent a lot of time in Sydney. I'd collectively spent like 2 years total in Australia. I had spent like 3 or 4 months in Ireland. I spent some time in Hawaii. So like I've traveled and gotten out there and seen some of the world. So that aspect wasn't scary, but it was the immediacy of it all. It was, my move to Australia I had planned 6 months for. New York essentially happened almost overnight. And for me, it wasn't the idea, not the idea, but just like I wanted to feel fulfilled. And I think as a creative person, I realized when I started my blog that creativity is like inherent in who I am. And I could never live a non-creative life. And this I knew was an opportunity to like make stuff and share stuff and be a part of really cool campaigns for brands that I knew and loved and used every day. And if anyone is familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, he's just an amazing person in the industry and just out in life. And he really is a really cool guy. And the idea of working for him, like I was 22 years old and terrified and had no experience, and I was being offered this, what felt like a golden ticket to like making myself into something. And I just couldn't, it wasn't even like a question for me. I don't think I even asked my boyfriend at the time. I think I was just like, yes. And then we will figure it out.
That's amazing. I think there's so many like different questions I want to ask about that, because I think that experience is almost like, so you were 22, it's almost like 8 years later, it's kind of a mirror for your life, right? The entrepreneurial life is like, I think now you have a lot more confidence, a lot more, obviously, like probably no analytics and all this other stuff, so you have a different poise to you, but I also think there's still the entrepreneurial pursuit there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of those, well, it's up to me, sink or swim. Like, I think it's just one of the greatest mirrors for, if it's to be, it's up to me. Mm-hmm. And there's just that, all right, well, I just got to do it. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but we're just going to make it. And like, I think that's, you go back 8 years and it's like a mirror of what you do now. Isn't that kind of cool?
Well, and I also think like, it's like bravado versus bravery. Like when I was 22, I had a lot of bravado. Like my chest was puffed out and I was just like faking it and like crushing it and felt like I was making all my dreams happen, man. And, but it didn't feel like real. Like people are like, oh my God, you moved to New York. Oh, that's so brave. And I'm like, that's not brave. Like, it was just a choice. Like, that was just a life decision. I needed to make money. I was nannying, which I love nannying and I love kids, but it wasn't like, and I love teaching, but it just wasn't like, this was like a life choice for me. But to me, the bravery comes more now. Like you said, I feel when I was 22 and doing these things, it was coming from a place of like, feeling like I needed to prove myself and feeling like I needed to like show off that I could do it. And now it's just like a way of, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Now it's just like a way of life. And I feel like I'm able to make braver and more intentional choices now that I have all of this experience and I've made all of these countless mistakes and have many more mistakes to go. I feel like I'm able to, kind of come from a place that is a little more poised and a little more brave and a little more informed.
Do you feel like you ever went through a time in your life, or you are going through a time in your life where you were like, I need to find myself?
Constantly, all the time. I think I'm a really introspective person, and I think about everything constantly. Like it never stops up here. And I said, again, in my interview, I said, I'm really hard on myself. That's probably one of my biggest weaknesses is that I am just so hard on myself. And so on that level, I think I'm kind of always trying to find myself because, like I said, I'm always trying to think like, well, what more could I be doing? Or what more could I be exploring? Or how could I be pushing myself more? Or am I doing the best that I can be doing? And if I'm not doing the best that I can be doing, how can I be doing it better? And that is an exhausting hamster wheel to be on. And sometimes it's an important one to be on, but when you're on it all the time, it's exhausting. So yeah, I think sometimes trying to find myself to a fault where sometimes you can just be like, all right, girl, like you're good. You're found for the moment. Just like settle in and be where you're at and be comfortable with who you are for now and you know, keep evolving, but just relax.
Well, that's it. I think because I mean, when you talk about that, it's just that whole hamster wheel resonates so much. I mean, I think in every single person's life, we're all our own worst critic. But I think that in the community I know and the people I know, I've always been someone who's extremely hard on myself. But that's what drives me and pushes me to take the risk. And maybe it's like, I think I've had this conversation, maybe it's like an outward projection of trying to like prove I'm enough. Sometimes, so it's like, you're trying to find that balance and like trying to say like, oh, I found myself. Do you ever find yourself though? It's like, you're constantly evolving.
Yeah.
I think it's just about, we've grown up in this world where it's like rise and grind, team no days off, and it's like this constant push. But what I'm realizing and kind of like stepping into, I just turned 30, guys.
Ew.
Hey, it's kind of taking that step back of like, all right, can I just be a human being for 5 seconds and just like appreciate what I am? And you know, I think that comes down to intention too. Is I listened to this talk by Oprah last night. She's like, when she read this book by, I forget the guy's name, but it was all about intention. And she changed that in her talk show, and then they did every single day with intention. And that basically turned into 25 years of being number one. So it's like, I'm starting to take that step back of like, I don't have to do everything. It's just about what am I intentionally doing.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to ask you kind of about that. Is like, now that you have this poise, I feel like, I don't know all of your world, but I feel like you're really good at being like, nah, I'm not feeling it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I love telling people I've only been freelancing full time for about 3 months now, and I'm at the point now where I'm able to turn down work, and I'm able to say like, nah, like that's not for me. Like a job landed in my inbox a couple weeks ago, and it was a job with a construction company, and it would have been great money, but the type of work wasn't exciting to me, and I was able to like politely decline and be like, hey, you know what? This isn't for me. I actually know someone who like is a really good technical writer and would be great for this. Here's that person's name. But like, I'm really doing a lot of creative work right now, and this type of like more technical work isn't really my jam. And it felt really, really good to finally be at a place where I'm like, like I can say no to that and be cool with saying no to that and not feel like I have to take it on.
So what were like some, like, to get more detail for the people, like what were the feelings behind that? Like, was it like, did you feel empowered? Did you feel like
I was like
a lot of pride? Like what were the feelings?
Oh,
you know, like,
all of the feelings. It was, I mean,
I think that's special.
yeah, I never, it's not that I never thought I would get there, because I think I've always believed in my Rhea likes to say genius. Like I've always believed in my ability and my skill, and I know I'm a good writer, and that's something I'm very confident about. But I just always, it was more like a mindset thing. Like I never imagined myself saying no to work, because I work all the time, and that's not necessarily a good thing or something that I would advocate. I believe in taking days off. I don't think you should be grinding all the time or hustling all the time or whatever word we're using for young people who are busting their asses. Like I don't think that that's healthy or viable or something that you can sustain. But I do. I work a lot and I work really hard, and I never imagined myself saying no to work for that reason. And I think that's why it felt so good. It wasn't even like empowered. I was just proud of myself for being at a point where I felt secure enough to say no to something. And I think that's something we all struggle with, not even just in work, but in dating, in relationships, and dating is my favorite topic. Dating.
We're gonna get there. Don't worry.
Yes, dating and relationships and friendships and even our family and obligations, going to parties, going to dinners. Like saying no is really hard for people. And I think we live in this culture right now that's like, the year of yes, and say yes to everything, and I'm a yes girl, and I'm a yes man. It's like, say no, though. Say no to shit. Say no to stuff you fundamentally don't want to do. Like, it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I talked to you about your post on my birthday dinner the other night about how saying no, it really hit, because I'm just going to raise my hand. I'm horrible at saying no.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really difficult because, and where that comes from, just to kind of dive a little deeper into that, it's like people pleasing. Like, that's been my life, and like, trying to maybe not fit in, because I don't want to fit in anymore, but like just be liked, just be a part of the community. And it's like, that's where it comes from, where like, and I can feel it. Like, I'll have that situation where someone asks you like, hey Sean, can we use your truck, or can you help me? And I'm like I want to say no, but say no. Yes. Oh, damn it. Do it again. So like,
and in your head you're like, fuck, not again.
Yeah, and it's like, well, sometimes for me, and like this is, and I want everyone to know, like listeners, like when you're going through life and you're learning new things, there's always this like, it's just like an experiment. I think a small business is just like a big science experiment, because it's like, for part of me, it's like, Sean, can you help me with my truck? And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, well, I don't really have much lined up today, so I mean, I why not? Why should I say no? But like at the same time, it's like, but if I honor myself, there's other things I could be doing, and like, is this really fulfilling me? Like, where is this coming from? So I know that gets a little deep, but that's my mind. I like to look into the deeper spaces of stuff. But I mean, it really is a challenge to say no. And I mean, I also want to talk a little over this now, but I really want to come back to how you talk about money.
Sure.
A lot of us are terrified to talk about money.
No,
I'm personally like, let's talk about money. So for you, it's important. For me, it's important. Like, I want to make a lot of money. Like, who doesn't? But we're afraid to talk about it. And I want to kind of ask you, like you said early on, I knew I wanted to make money. Now you're at this place where you're making good money. And you just said you turned down something that was going to give you a lot of money. So how, I mean, kind of just talk about that, maybe that transition of like honoring, I mean, maybe it's just recognizing your own value and being like, yeah, like I'm worth this. And, that's not in alignment. And I just know, have faith that something else is going to come that's going to give you more money.
Yeah. Well, and when I say money is important, like, it's not the driving force. And when I talk about, like you just said, like I'm worth more, it's not that I'm worth more money than that job. It's that I'm worth doing work that makes me feel good and that gets me excited to get out of bed in the morning. And I also recognize that that is a privilege. Like, to be able to only have to worry about myself, to only have to provide for me, to be a single white woman living in middle-class America. Like, I am privileged on every level. And I think that it's really, really important to drive that home, that like, we get bombarded with these messages of like, do what you love, like leave it all behind. And some people just can't. Some people have reasons that they can't, and that's okay. And I would never, ever want to alienate the people who can't do what they love because they have to provide for their children, or they are financially bound into something else. But for me, it came down to, I'm at a place where it doesn't serve me to be spending my time on a job that I fundamentally know I will be miserable working on, when I know I could put that time to another job that I will also be profitable on, that I will enjoy and like be happy doing. And again, like I draw a lot of parallels often between working in relationships, because I think the same can be said for love and for relationships. We find ourselves unhappy in these relationships and in these scenarios, and feeling stuck is just the worst. Like, when you feel stuck doing work you hate, or when you feel stuck in a relationship that doesn't make you feel fulfilled, you could be putting your energy back into you and be like reaping those benefits, or you could be putting your energy into somebody who's going to give you what you need and going to meet your needs, and come out feeling more fulfilled. So for me, it all just comes down to, it's not even just about making money or being successful, because those are like, that's kind of like a relative term. But for me, it's just like, what makes me the best version of me? And when it comes to work, it's doing work that fulfills me and that I know I'll bring my best self to every day because I'm excited to do it.
I think it's interesting that you like put in your heart. It's like a feeling.
Oh yeah, no, it's a like passion for like, I feel very passionate about that.
I think it would be really valuable for you to talk to people about your recent transition, like in work, because you've only been like full-time freelancing for a couple months now, right?
Yeah.
And I think your experience with this transition has been really beautiful to watch unfold. And I feel like I've seen you light up a lot since you moved into full-time freelancing. And obviously you've started in a very short amount of time to be able to say no to things that don't fulfill you. And maybe talk about where you were even just like 4 months ago and compared to kind of how your work life is now.
Totally. So I left the company that I had been at for 3 years, and I hadn't really been happy there for a long time, and I think it was very obvious at that company that I was unhappy. And so when I left, I was really feeling kind of lost and not sure about what I wanted to do next, and like it was kind of survival skill mode. Like, now what do I do? Like, am I even still a writer? My identity, we say all the time, like, we aren't our jobs, but like creatives and creative field is a little different because you're like, creativity is personal. And I mean, I guess maybe every job has personal aspects to it, but there's something about knowing that you're the only person who could be making the thing that you're making. Like, nobody looks through the lens the way that you do. Nobody picks up the paintbrush and puts it on the canvas the way you do. Nobody will say the exact words or have the exact thoughts that you do. So literally everything you make is a one of a kind, whether it's for a small business or a global brand or for your blog or just in your journal every day. You are creating a piece of art that is a one of a kind every time you touch something. And that's personal and it's emotional. And to be at a kind of a crossroads where it's like, okay, well, do I just go work for like another agency where I know that I was really unhappy doing that? Do I go in-house somewhere? Like, and it was just kind of this like extreme discomfort where I was like, oh, I don't know really what to do here. And I decided just to kind of like take it day by day and start off freelancing and just like dip my toe in the water and see how it felt. And I remember we went out for coffee, and I just was like, I don't know, man. Like, a lot of people when they're starting a new endeavor feel like this rush of excitement, and like I didn't feel that.
Okay,
like
okay.
I was scared and not sure if I could do it, and it was the first time in my career, even going back to being 22 and having no idea what I was doing. It was funny that after 8 years of experience, that's when I wasn't actually confident in. It's not that I wasn't confident in my skill. It's that I wasn't confident that I was going to make enough money doing this on my own to survive. And one great thing about working at an agency or in-house is that, like, you have a salary, you have benefits, you have a 401k, you have all the shiny things. And once I actually dove into freelancing and really committed to it, like within days, things were just finding me.
Wild.
Like, things were just, I wasn't even trying. Like, strangers were coming up to me in coffee shops being like, you're a copywriter, aren't you? Like, I saw your Creative Mornings talk. Or like, so-and-so mentioned your name to me, and like, I looked you up on Instagram and like recognize you, which 2018 is so weird that happens, that we can see someone and be like, oh, I know you from Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
That, and your workshop yesterday, every single person in the room was like, I follow you on Instagram, I don't know you, like, I just connected with you. But yeah, so things just kept landing in my inbox, like I wasn't even trying.
I think it's a really, really
I was
great
trying,
example. Yeah, you were trying. It was a really great example of when something that no longer serves you in your life is taken out.
Yeah.
That it just opens up all of the space for the things that you really do fill you up in your life, and that you've been like maybe neglecting or haven't had space for.
Yeah.
Can you talk about anything else like that in your life and experience where you've had to just like let go of things in order to create space for other things?
Every day. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going back to the Instagram post that Sean was referencing, 3 years ago, I went through a really, really just messy breakup, and that was a first for me. I'd never been through like a messy heartbreak. I have had heartbreak. I've experienced heartbreak. I've had relationships not work out, but it's always been like out of mutual respect that we've parted ways. Like, our paths are diverging. We're going in different directions. You want this and I want this. You want to live there. I want to live here. We're just not connected anymore. Maybe it's best if we don't be together. And those were always the conversations. I've never experienced like brutal betrayal or like just absolutely being blindsided by something. And that was definitely another example in my life of when I had to just kind of like, it's like the however many 7 stages, 9 stages, however many stages of grief, there are 50 stages of grief, I feel like.
Years.
But it was like, kind of going through the motions, same with starting a new career path. Is like, okay, I'm accepting that I am moving on, and then I'm like getting to work on moving forward. And, with the relationship, it was like, I reached a point where I couldn't destroy myself anymore. Like I couldn't allow myself to continue being hurt that way. I physically had to like walk away and leave it behind because I knew that if I didn't, like it would ruin my life.
Now, I have a question for you because I was going to ask you, and maybe this is that experience. I was going to ask you, in your life, what is like one of the most painful experiences you've experienced? And maybe that's it.
That is it. Yeah.
Okay. So how did that transform you though into the woman you are now? Because the woman I see, like I said, I commented, is like this very brave, like fierce. I feel like you're very poised and obviously super open. No, I mean these are just the things I see. And I know you didn't just get there from like magical rainbows and ponies of life like Candyland. Like no one does. Like I'm. A lot of my, and I just look at my experience, and I don't think, I'm part of the collective, so I know I'm not alone. And my story was very painful, but I am who I am because of my pain. So we both know, right? Like everyone on these seats knows that pain can transform you into like really cynical and hateful, or you can say, okay, I know that this is here to help me grow. Like, how do I grow? I want to kind of know and like let people know, like, how did that most painful experience of your life transform you?
Totally. And I mean, I think it's important to note that like life is painful. Like we all go through really like hard, painful things. And like you said, the collective, like I truly believe that we're all in this together. Like I said at dinner the other night, and it sounds kind of harsh when I say it, but your pain's not unique. Like your painful life experiences, you're unique. Like I think we're all unique and special in our own ways, but the painful things we go through, like talk about them because there's people that get it. There's people that get you. And while your circumstance might be unique to you, the going through a heartbreak or going through like a family going through a divorce or losing a sibling, like these are all painful things I've gone through. Like I lost my brother when I was 10, my parents got divorced, I've had my heart broken. And the way I look at those experiences is like the monster can't get me if I square off with it. And that's kind of how I've like always like think of any David and Goliath story ever. Like you win when you face off against the monster and you're like, nah, I see you, like come at me. Like I'm gonna like call you what you like. The monster's only scary because you think it's scary because it looks big and scary because you're afraid to address it. But if you address that thing head on and you're like, nah, I see you, and I'm going to talk about you and I'm going to make you known, then like, it can't get you. And so that's kind of how I've always approached death and grief and family issues and whatever, friendships, relationships, job things. Like for me, talking about it openly and writing about it and putting it out in the world and giving it a name is my way of saying like, yeah, this thing sucks and maybe it's scary and uncomfortable, but I know you guys out there get it too. And as far as like it making me better, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't undo any of the awful things that have been done to me or that I've done or that like or not that I wouldn't undo awful things that I've done, but I've learned from everything. Like everything's been a teacher.
Wow, Jesus. I feel like we could just write a book with everything you just said. Honestly, so the one, there's two things. So the one I love the most, and I feel like we have to make like a sticker of what you just said. How do you say it with like the monster, like face? I don't remember how you said it. We're going to have to go back and look at it. But anyway, so I want to interject here because I think we talked about a lot of great stuff, but what you just said, I think, is like one of the most important things you can understand as a human being is, and I'll kind of jump in with my experience, right? Like you guys all know, like, or at least these three know, you guys probably are going to know more, but, you know, I faced a lot of depression throughout my 20s, and I was a professional runner. I mean, I ran and hid in my room. I didn't want people to see it, and that thing just turned into, what's a big animal? Like a mother effing grizzly bear, a moose on top of the grizzly bear, and then a T-Rex on top of that. You know, it just turned into this monster. And I think I tend to be extreme in my life, so it makes sense that I'm an inspirational speaker about this now. But what that originally started as is sharing my story in a book that is going to be coming out, and then it started being public speaking about it, and it was my way of taking my power back over that creature, that fear I had created. And eventually I was just like, all right, mother effer, like, what's up? I see you, like you said. And it slowly shrank, and it slowly shrank, and it slowly shrank. And then now it's transitioned into, like, now I share that with others. Like, come out of hiding, man. Like, this community, these three, these, like, other people I mentioned, AJ, Ankati, Shelly, all these people were the ones that just held open arms for me to just be, that's a part of who I was. That was a challenge I faced, but it wasn't what defined me. And they gave me that strength to just be like, okay, all right, maybe it's worth showing up. Maybe I'm okay here. And I think that that's super powerful. No matter what your challenges are, like, face them head on, talk about them, write about them, like, whatever that looks like to take the power away, paint about it, you know? It's about taking the power back, because the more you give it, the larger it gets.
100%. The more you feed it, the more it grows. And I really, really like what you said about running, because I think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people run, and I think a lot of people run especially when other people see them. And, you know, I always joke in relationships and dating, like, if you want to find my skeletons, just, like, Google my name, because I've literally written about probably all of them. Like, they're all on the internet. They're all over the fucking place. And that's my way of taking my power back, of saying, these skeletons aren't in my closet. They're out, like, dancing around the world, and I'm dancing with them.
I think it's taking your power back too, and just, like, speaking about, whether it's speaking, painting, writing, whatever it is, like, you're sharing it, and you're giving other people the permission to share their own stories when you share yours as well, which is, taking your power back, but it's also giving other people the power to do the same. And it's giving other people the opportunity to relate with you.
Yeah, well, it's like shining your light so others can see, like, kind of be a lighthouse, like, you know.
Well, I think it just creates this again, my like tagline here, a community where we support each other, and then that's how we rise. Together we rise. And we rise by being real. And being real means, like, you have a lot of fucking flaws. So that we've already said that a bunch of times, but it just feels wrong.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Yeah, but we all have flaws. Like, I think the older I get, I'm just like, dude, I'm so far away from perfect.
What makes you,
and it's great,
like, perfectly uniquely you, is to have your flaws. Because if we didn't have our flaws, like, we would all be
we're all
the same.
We're all
like,
we're all a mess.
So that's like what makes us all, like, come together and work. And I think especially in this community, all of us talk about this a lot. Like, this community is so incredibly special to all of us. And I know for me personally, like, I've really grown into what it is that I'm doing and thriving off of since being a part of this community. I think you can obviously relate to that, and I think you can as well. We talked about it yesterday. So, like, how has community really played a huge role in your life, your story, your like, work, like, whatever it is?
Oh man, it's that, and when I say me too, like, I don't necessarily mean, like, hashtag me too, but also that, like, it's that me too factor of, like, I'm not alone. Like, you don't, and we talked about this yesterday after your workshop a little bit, but, like, you don't have to be alone in your suffering. Like, I think to a certain extent, I do think some of us, like, really do need to just be alone in it for a moment and sit in it and feel it and get used to what that feels like. But when it comes to, like, moving through it, it's okay to ask for help, or it's okay to say, like, I'm really fucking this up. Like, how do I make it better? How do I get through this? And community for me has always just been about kind of, like, trust falling into you guys and knowing that, like, I'm going to be held, I'm going to be supported. I don't have to get through whatever this thing is alone. Like, whether it's, navigating new career waters and turning to my friends. I had so many coffee dates the last 3 months with people who work for themselves, who were willing to like sit down and chat with me about everything from like how much to put aside for your taxes and like the best people to go through for private healthcare, to budgeting your time and making Google spreadsheets, to the more like headier, deeper stuff like self-worth and waking up every day and being afraid that you're not going to be able to do it and what if I fail. And I think having those people in your community that you trust, that, and not even just your close friends, because I think sometimes our best friends mean well, but sometimes you need somebody who's like not a close friend, who knows like the business side of it more, or knows something a little bit more, is a little more informed about what your problem is, whether it's a therapist, whether it's another professional in your industry, whatever. Find someone you can talk to who knows their shit and lean on them for support. It's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're not talented or not skilled or you're inadequate. It just means you're human.
Yeah.
You don't have all the answers.
Absolutely. I think it's important too. Like there's always a balance in life, right? Like so, community's been uber important for all of us. But I also think, like you said, sometimes. I don't advocate for this because I was always thinking as a man, like I had to figure it out on my own. But I think there's a really important aspect of sitting with yourself, because you need, I'm just going to say this is my perception of life and my life experience, everyone, is that you need to take the time to find out who you are. I mean, I was told when I was going through all this mental illness, like, Sean, if you try to find out who you are, you're gonna put yourself in an insane asylum. And there was this stubborn voice inside of me that was like, no, like I gotta get deeper into this, and that was just my issue that I dive into. But if you don't take the time to dive in and figure out who you are and create your own foundation, I feel like you're just gonna the wind's gonna blow you in every single direction. And because you have community that supports you, but like you said, you are your own creative, unique voice. Only you know your path. And although we mean well, like sometimes I might say something that's completely off base with what you're thinking, or vice versa. And it's important for you to have, I think, that strong foundation of who you are, where you want to go, your vision, and be able to take that feedback or that advice. I don't even know the word, like, with discretion, or, just take pieces of it, because you have to be able to like strongly stand and say, I'm steering this ship. Like, this is my ship. If it's to be, it's up to me. But I can also lean, like when the ship just crashed into a rock and put a huge hole in it, like, hey guys, can you hold me up while I repair the hole? You know what I mean? So I think there's that like balance, and that's important.
Yeah, and I mean, they're also like, isn't a 7-nation army trying to stop you from being better? Like there's no 7-nation army trying to stop you from being a better employee or a better whatever writer or a better public speaker or a better partner or a better lover or a better son, daughter. Like, if you want to get better and you want to be a better person and you want to get stronger, like, do it. Get strong. Like, no, there's no waiting. There's no like wondering. Sometimes it's just about like recognizing that you could be doing better and just like doing the damn thing. Like, your life is as good as you make it. You're as good of a person as you make yourself. Like, do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a hard truth, right, is that like, when you look in the mirror every day and you look at your life circumstances, whether they're beautiful or not beautiful, it's like the only person you really have to look at is you. And like, I think most men said, like, life's hard enough. Like, we just talked about all your pains. We've had pain. That you're gonna kick your own self in the balls or the privates if you're a woman, like whatever. Like you're gonna then
something like that.
Kick yourself down. Like, life's hard enough. Like, get out of your own way and like just do the damn thing, like you said. I mean, it's tough to do that, but like, if you want to grow and if you want to actually take accountability for your life and its success and happiness and love and all that, like, you have to look in the mirror and be like, say the tough things.
I think on that note too, like, calling yourself a writer, for example, like, anybody, like, how difficult was that for you to be like, okay, when did you know you were a writer? And like, I think you've talked to me about this before, where you, like Sean, for example, you were like, Sean, you need to start calling yourself a speaker. You know what I mean?
I remember we were at White Heron and I said, if you're not calling yourself what you want to be known as, nobody else is going to respect you enough to call you that. And for me, I mean, I was scared of calling myself a writer. I had like imposter syndrome because when I started, I started at Vayner when I was like 22, I wasn't writing. I mean, I was writing, but I wasn't a writer. I wasn't a copywriter there. I was a content producer. And then I had another job at another agency where I was hired for a more creative role, but they were needing a publicist. So I transitioned into being a publicist, and I was doing PR. And I was still writing every day, but I wasn't a writer. I was like just close. I kept putting myself in scenarios where I was like just close enough to be kind of doing the thing I wanted to be doing, but not close enough to be fully committed. And again, so many parallels. Anytime you do that, whether it's in a relationship or in your work, if you're just like dicking around with like just close enough, you're never going to be fulfilled. Like if you're holding yourself back or you're only allowing yourself to go so far, but then it's uncomfortable and it feels too real, and what if I screw it up? So then you back down. You're going to constantly be in this state of like almost getting there and then just falling short, and almost getting there and just falling short. And it's nobody's fault but yours. And to a certain degree, like we all have to do that dance before we land with what we're supposed to be doing. And I think I took on a freelance project with Stance a couple of years ago, and if you're not familiar, Stance Socks, they are such a rad sock company. And where are you going?
It's fine, keep going. The only like live that might possibly save is low battery.
Oh no. Hang tight, guys. We're
going.
We're coming with some power
Carry
right
on.
now. But I did this really, really rad project, and I went out to California and got to work with a close friend of mine and did this really cool project, and it was all writing. They hired me as a writer, and it was the first time that like writer was next to my name. Like in the magazine, I still have it. It says like copywriter, Carley Barton. And it was the first time I ever saw that title next to my name, and I had been wanting that since I was 7 years old. And that was the moment for me where I was like, oh my God, like I'm a writer.
Yeah.
And just unreal. Like unreal. It's surreal. I remember there's a picture of it actually. I'll share it. I can like share it on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever after this. That my friend took. I went out to California for production just to like get the magazine. We were writing a magazine just to get it out there and to see everything kind of in print and make any last edits. And there was a moment where the entire magazine, page by page, was pasted up on a wall so we could see what the whole magazine looked like at once. And I was standing back just kind of like looking at this whole magazine, and I wrote every page of it. And my friend took a picture like from behind of me looking at. And I remember in that moment I turned around to my friend and I said, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I think that I'm doing the wrong thing back home. And this feels really good. Like it was kind of a breakthrough. It was a moment where I was like, oh, duh. Like I've wanted to be a writer since I was 7. If you go back to like not my report, it's like in preschool they kept little like composition journal notebooks about like today Carly played in the sandbox with Freddie. Freddie's a real person, by the way. There's one page that my mom and I found one day that said something along the lines of Carly spends a lot of time at the writing station. Like I think we have a writer on our hands. And it was really funny to like go back and look at that. I would have been like 5 or 6 years old.
That's
I was just always writing. So to see writer next to my name and to be called that, it was like, oh, okay, like I'm a writer. This is what it's. So I ended up going back to the agency I was at the time, and within a month they had transitioned me from I was working strategy at the time to creative, and copywriter was on my business cards, and that's what I was, and I've been that ever since. And that was like 3.5 years ago. But yeah, you have to call yourself what you are, or nobody's gonna do it for you. Like if you're saying I'm a photographer, but you're not like if you like to take photos, you're not saying you're a photographer. No one's gonna hire you, right? Like, and it's the same with public speaking. If you're like, oh, I want to be a public speaker, but you're not calling yourself a public speaker, if that's not in your Instagram bio, if that's not on your website, if that's on your business cards, people aren't gonna know that about you.
And it's like you have to, even if you don't do it yet, like not like a lot, like say it, because like when you say it, that's like that's gonna be your only chance to really do it.
And you're reaffirming yourself
over and over
and the reason people like just found me when I started freelancing is because I beat people over the head with the fact that I'm a writer. It is not a secret in any capacity or any area of my life.
The more you say you're a writer, other
everywhere,
people say
you
you're
know?
a writer, and then it just carries on.
So,
Well, okay.
oh, there you go.
I was just saying this is perfect. So last night Instagram scrolling, guilty pleasure, excuse me, but I saw this thing from Jay-Z, and it was just this quote, and he's like,
What's up, huh?
"That's what I'm saying." What did I forgot?
What did
Jay-Z
he
and
say?
Beyonce. I was gonna say something cool, but I forgot it. But
Uh,
no, but so he said his first concert, like his first show, he forgot the lyrics, and he said like after that in his quote, he's like, "You just have to have this monumental belief in yourself because other people are gonna say you can't do it." And that doesn't mean you can't. It's just them projecting their fears or their shortcomings on you.
Yeah.
So you, like you said, if you don't believe it, you're going to get, and I think that, like, again, what you believe in here is the outward projection of what's going to mirror back to you. So if you don't believe it, people are going to project that back at you. And it's only going to, like, perpetuate that belief that I can't do it. But if you can just, like, whether it's bravado or it's bravery or whatever you step into, like you said, like, I am a speaker, I am a writer. Like, you say that with, like, confidence, and people are like, oh, okay, I see you.
Yeah,
Like,
when they meet a public speaker, they meet a writer,
you.
they're going to think of you
Yeah.
because they've heard you say it, they've heard other people say it, they've read it, they've seen it out there, you've marketed yourself correctly. Like, that's how you get business.
So something that I want to talk about, because I'm thinking about maybe someone sitting here watching this and they're like, okay, so you didn't really understand or not understand, but it took you kind of being published and seeing that work to be like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I am a writer.
Mm-hmm.
What if that like moment had never happened? Like, would you still know in your heart that you were a writer?
I don't
Like,
know.
how, you know?
I don't know.
Like, how do you, somebody who hasn't been published yet or hasn't even stepped on the stage yet or hasn't like been hired to shoot a wedding yet, like what advice do you have for that person to keep believing in themselves if they haven't hit that point yet? Because you're gonna hit the point if you don't quit.
So I am at a point now, 8 years later, where I can say no to things. But in the beginning, I said yes to everything, every opportunity. When that stance project came along, once again, same with moving to New York, I was like, yes. Don't even really care what the details are. Doesn't even really matter how much you're paying me. I think, and it's a delicate balance because I think, you know, experienced me can sit here and be like, say no to the shit you don't want to do. But if you have no experience and you don't have a strong portfolio to fall back on and you don't have really strong work references and you're just starting out, the way you get those things is by saying yes. So if a friend of mine was like working on their website at the time, I'd be like, oh, can I write some stuff for you? Like, can I just like write your like bio for you, or can I write your about section for you? And then like I'd be like, hey, how was working with me? Would you mind writing a testimonial? And I can stick it on my website. Like, so just starting out, yes, seeing my name was like the title next to my name was my first moment of like, oh, like I'm a writer. Like this actually is what I do. But the steps I took to getting there was writing. Like you have to do the thing that you want to call yourself. So it's a two-part equation. You have to be confident and brave enough to call yourself the thing you want to do, but you also have to like be hardworking and be diligent and be constantly practicing your craft. Yeah. So like whether or not I was getting paid a lot, whether or not it was an exciting fancy brand, whether or not it was keeping me up at night, in the beginning when I was just starting out, I was doing that H word. I was hustling. Yeah. And you kind of to a degree have to do that in the beginning to establish yourself and build some credibility. So that's my advice to either young people or people looking to make a transition or looking to make a career pivot is get out there and do the thing, whether it's just starting a blog or writing a few articles for a website. Maybe it's for free, maybe not, or trading with a friend who has a business. Like if you were I knew you were a photographer and I was a writer, like I might be like, hey, Michaela, like I know you're looking to redo your website, like could you hire me to like write it and we can just like trade, like whatever it is, just make sure you're practicing your craft and make sure you're doing the thing that you want to be doing all the time. Like get good at it.
Yeah. If you love it and you really, really do like enjoy doing it, then it's probably something you're going to be doing anyway. But I think we just live in this world sometimes where we want like instant gratification. Like I want to be a writer and I want to be published tomorrow. But it's like you do have to keep. If you really do love it, then I think you're going to keep doing it anyway. And I think I don't know. So the word creative, like what does that kind of mean to you?
Yeah, I mean. Same again. I keep going back to my bio just because I was being half serious and half a little bit playful, but also quite serious. Like, I was just born this way. Like, I have been making stuff my whole life. My mom loves to tell the story that, like, she would try to punish me. Like, I'd do something bad. Like, I'd, like, break something or whatever. Like, be sassy with her, which still happens. And she'd be like, go to your room. Like, whatever. Like, I'd go upstairs. I'd be like, all right. And I'd go up and I'd shut my door. And I'd be like a little kid. I was like 7. Or like maybe younger. And she'd hear me like talking to myself. She'd be like, oh, like, what is she? And she'd go up and I'd be like putting on like a puppet show with like just my hands and like having a blast. And then I was like, I can't punish my child because she will find a creative way to have fun no matter what situation she's in. And so I think, to me, like, that's creativity. It's like, no matter what situation you're in, no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter where you're at, the ability to like make something, whether it is a painting or an idea or a story or a conversation or solving a problem, doing so creatively is just doing it in a way that's like unique to you and in a way that is thoughtful and different and there isn't one formulaic way to get the job done. It's thinking like, okay, there's lots of different roads. Which one do we take? How do we get there?
Yeah, well, I think like everything you're talking about is just living with a wild heart, like, and I kind of going back to the last thing is, you talk about this balance, right, between, that 8 years of getting to that point. It's like, I think it goes back to that feeling. I still remember earlier in the show, when you pointed here, like, it's a feeling. And I think there's a big word I'm going to throw out there, and whatever you want to call it is fine, but faith. I think faith ties into that because you have to have the faith that you've been doing this for 8 years and it took you 8 years to get that aha moment. But you follow the feeling, right? Like, it's not about, you weren't writing because, obviously you probably want to make some money, but like the intention behind it wasn't like, I want to make $1 million, so I'm going to just keep writing and hopefully do it. It's more like, I love this. What?
I said definitely wouldn't have gone into writing if I wanted to make
Yeah, like, it's like, I love this. I feel good when I do this. This is my creative outlet. This is how I keep my power over the big scaries inside of me. And I'm just going to have the faith that I'm going to keep doing it. And if magic is going to happen, it's going to happen. And I think you look at any successful person and like whatever, and we talk about the cliche thing of like, well, if you do what you love, like, I don't know how I still don't know how I feel about that.
Still work.
Yeah, but
still work.
But even for me right now, like, not getting paid to do a lot of these gigs. Like I said, I'm saying yes to everything, and I think you have to say yes to everything to find out what you don't like, so that you can curate what you do like. And then 8 years later, get to that point where you're like, that's not my jam.
100%.
I've done that. It's not my jam.
100%.
So it's just, I think there's just so many different culminations right there, and it's again following the feeling, following your wild heart, and just going like, this feels good. So I'm going to continue to do it whether I get paid or not. And
100%.
Obviously there's different realities where you got to make money and stuff, but you can always be doing the damn thing, as you said.
Well, and it's funny, the heart thing is so interesting to me because, and I've said this before, but like my heart has like the whole like, listen to your heart. What does your heart say? It's like, my heart's led me down some suspect as fuck paths. If I followed my heart every time, like I would be dating the wrong people. I would be probably, I don't even know. Like, like my heart has led me down some shady friggin' road where like I'm walking down and I'm like, I don't know, guys, you sure about this? Like, this doesn't seem right. And like, then my head steps in. It's like, nah, turn back. This isn't right. This isn't the right choice. So I think it's a balance between like I've got a wild heart, but I've got like a really good brain too. Like my brain kicks in when it needs to, and the two are kind of, the head and the heart. They're kind of always communicating, kind of always arguing with each other. And my heart's like, nah, he's not that bad. And my brain's like, he's the worst. He sucks. Or like, they're like, nah, like, do that job for no money. Like, it's altruistic and it'll be fun. And my brain's like, yeah, that's not going to keep your electricity on though. So, ask for more money. It's cool. Or like, say no. So I think having a wild heart is really, really important. But I think it's a dialogue. You have to listen to your heart, but you also have to be smart about it.
I feel like we are running out of time, and that was like really good answering the wild heart question kind of towards the end. But I feel like off of He Sucks, I just have like one more
Nice. Yes. Relationships. I think that's our favorite thing. So
I feel like the way that you talk about relationships is kind of similar to how you were talking about saying no to job opportunities at the beginning an hour ago. Yeah, it has. So I think a lot of women and men, anybody out there, could always really appreciate some good dating advice from Carley Barton.
Oh my God.
So let's,
I am not the person to be giving dating
you
advice.
are though, you are.
I will say, like, I'll like give somebody advice, and then I'm like, yeah, but I'm also still single, so here
Yeah,
we
but
are.
it's because you've come to this point where
Yes, that is true.
you know what's your dad's
What did my dad say?
what your dad said, but
Oh my gosh, so rude, Dad.
What do you say?
So
Come on, what do you
rude.
say? Come on.
My dad's
but
watching
there's some
this.
truth behind.
There's a lot of truth behind it. My dad at a wedding, Dad, if you're watching this, my dad at a wedding a couple months ago, someone at a wedding, which to me is just like such a rude question, was like, so who are you dating now? And first of all, I am Michaela. I hate that question. I'm like, my job's great. Thanks for asking. Things are great. He goes, I was like, oh, no one, I'm living my life. I feel really fulfilled. Like the prepared response for when your relatives ask intrusive questions at holidays and otherwise. And my dad goes, oh, she's operating under the one strike you're out policy these days. And I was like, excuse you. Because I think...
I like how you just made eye contact with the camera. You're like, Dad.
Yeah.
But I do. I think, like, it's not one strike you're out. It's if you treat me like shit, you're out. Like, if you're showing me this early on that you're, like, you don't know how to, like, be a human being to someone, then I don't have an interest in getting to know you further. And I think that's fair. Like, I would rather be alone than be in a situation that felt one-sided or felt like I was only being seen or spoken to when it was convenient for them, or when I was being mistreated, or if I think everybody deserves to have their needs met and to be in a partnership where both people's needs are honored and respected. And if you're showing me right out the gate that you don't give a fuck about my needs, or that you don't respect me, then bye.
No, I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful.
That's my dating advice.
I think that's beautiful, and that resonates with me because I think it's like, I want to go to a deeper level of what this is. It's like, once you take the time, like I said earlier, I think it's really important to get to know yourself. Once you have your foundation and you know how to make yourself happy and like sit with yourself in silence and just be like, do your own jam. Because I'll be real honest, like, same age, I think we're mirroring each other. I'm kind of like, listen, if you're not inspiring me, if you're not helping me grow, if you're not pushing me, if you can't treat me right, like, I have zero place for you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm on this trajectory. Granted, like, success is all over the place, so I'll do a lot of that, but I'm trying to go up.
Yeah.
And if you can't meet me where I need to meet you, then there's really no place for you in my life. And it's not being mean, it's just the facts. Like, hey, you're where you're at, you're a beautiful human being.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because that's really important to me, is that for me, it's not like, you're an asshole, like, you. Like, that's not what it is for me at all. Like, I completely believe in meeting people where they're at, and I'm just at a point in my life where I'm done trying to change people. I'm done trying to, like, see potential. I'm done trying to, like, make you into something you're not. What you are and where you're at is okay. That's where you are and where you're at, and you need to honor that, and you need to sit with yourself and be where you are and go through whatever it is that you're going through. That's just not where I'm at, and both can be true. Like, I can care about you and want to be with you, but choose for myself and know for myself that this isn't a productive relationship, or this isn't a productive situation that we're in. And it doesn't mean I think you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that I hate you. It just means that, like, you're not as, there's a poet, Nayera Wahid, and she has a beautiful, beautiful poem that I will not butcher. But she says in it, like, if they're not willing to meet you on the bridge, then it's not worth, like, walking all the way out there for. Like, there's someone that's going to meet you on that bridge. So, like, don't just stand there out there waiting by yourself for the same person to come meet you who's showing you over and over and over again that they're not even on their way. Like, they're the friend that's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes, and like 45 minutes later, you're like, where are you? Which is me often. I'm sorry, guys. But in dating and in relationships and in love, like, it's not supposed to feel like that. Like, you're not supposed to feel alone. And so for me, with like the one strike you're out thing, it's like, you're showing me right out the gate this, and that's not to say, like, people make mistakes, people are flawed, people mess up, I mess up, we all mess up. I'm not perfect, like, but for me, if you're showing me right out the gate that you fundamentally don't respect me, then I have no place for you in my life.
Well, I think you just keep saying so. Like, I want to write a book about this later, but I think right there, the respect. And what I've learned is, again, I like to go deeper into everything. Is like, sometimes that person hasn't healed themselves.
Oh yeah,
and they don't even respect themselves. So how can? And that's about meeting them where they're at, right? Like, you can't even respect yourself. So how can I expect you to show me respect? You don't even know what it is.
Right.
And I think it just goes into that deeper place, like, because, you know, here, let's talk about Sean's relationship. Like, beautiful story. I've tried to save everyone. Yeah. I played the, like, oh, I see, like, because I think
I identify with that.
A flaw with me is, like, it's a beautiful thing, but a flaw, I see the best in everyone. Mm-hmm. And I think I used to create this, like, rainbows and ponies of, like, you can be this, like, Xena warrior princess. I'll get you there. And it's like, I just kept ignoring the disrespect, the what was in front of me, the, like, you can't meet my needs. And it's just exhausting. And I think for a long time, I was actually projecting onto other people, like, save me. I don't know how to save myself. And I think I was trying to be the hero as a way of avoiding being my own hero. Mm-hmm. But eventually it gets to this point where I told my cousin this, like, 24 years old, like, you know, he had addiction issues. I'm like, listen, dude, I'm going to give you a hard truth. No one is fucking coming to save you.
No one.
No one.
No one is saving you.
If you want to be healthy, happy, successful, find love, you got to do it.
Yeah.
I'm here to support you, but you got to do the work. And I mean, I think you get to that point where it's just like, I'm not going to do the work. Like, it's hard to do. Think about how hard it is to change yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're going to try and do that for someone else. It's a waste of your time.
Well, and people aren't going to change unless they want to change, unless they come to a point in their life where they realize that they can't do the thing they've been doing this long any longer. And I think one of the reasons I'm so adamant about saying no when something isn't serving me, especially in love and in dating, is because I know what it's like to be at a place where I was saying yes over and over and over again to something that was, we talked about it earlier, like literally destroying my life. And it didn't serve me. It didn't do anything for me. It hurt me a lot. And to be at a place where I can recognize early on and be like, you know what, this isn't for me. Like, it's not coming from a place of you're not enough for me. It's coming from a place of, like, I respect myself too much to feed myself so little.
Well, you're not looking, it sounds like just talking to you, you don't need validation for a relationship to feel worthy.
No. And I love love, and I love dating, and I think men are awesome, and I do. I really do. I think men are amazing, and I love dudes, and I love dating, but I don't love being mistreated, and I don't care who you are. If you show me that you don't respect me and that you don't value me, I'm out. And super simple.
I think that's great, because guess what, people? There's 8 billion. I mean, let's just call it 4 and 4. So there's a lot of humans out there, and it's just like,
so many humans.
I think that's what life experience and honestly age and wisdom give you, is you finally get to that point where you're like, okay, I can let you go, because there's like a zillion other people I could meet, and like, it's almost just understanding your value and how you deserve to be treated. So I think, is that a great place to end, unless you have something else?
It's a great thing.
Yeah, man, I could talk to you guys all day.
I know, this is like, I thought we were going for like 4 hours, but
let's stay
in light of trying to keep these things to an hour, I think that's what we got. Thank you so much, Carley.
Of course.
Don't leave us.
Thank you for sharing your story. I have so many other questions, but
we do. Do you have any final words that you need to leave people with?
No, I've said so many words already. I mean,
great words.
If you want to continue the conversation, come find me, say hello.
I was going to say,
what's your website again? Go ahead.
My website is carleybarton.com for professional stuff. For less professional stuff, you can find me at therenegaderulebook.com or on Instagram at carbarton.
Carbarton, people.
Carbarton. And then I want to leave you peeps with, again, this is for you guys. We've been inspired in our own ways, but we want to help you guys get inspired to take action on your lives. So if you got questions, if you got people you want to see, certain career
you wanna hear
paths
about.
or things you want to hear about, leave us questions, leave us comments. We want. This is for you guys.
Tell us
so
what you want.
tell us what you want.
Bye, guys.
Bye.